Hi. So today marks 9 years since Amy Winehouse died. Please tell me in the comments below if you remember that day. How did you feel that day? What impact did it have on your life? And it was after struggling for years with alcohol abuse, drug addiction, eating disorder, depression, multiple medications. I remember at the time not particularly caring, sad to say. I didn't identify with Amy Winehouse. She actually reminded me of many people I grew up with in London school who I didn't particularly get on with. And when watching the incredible Asif Kapadia film, I felt this sense of empathy, both as someone who was on the same antidepressant as her as a teenager, Throxat, but widely, I've had people who've cheated on me. I always never feel that I'm good enough. I hate my face as if it's some little hippo ploddy thing. And yeah, this sort of ideal of love that you sort of never quite get. And I remember watching the film and seeing Mos Def, who I did actually love a lot in the 90s, and thinking how he could have saved her. The sort of black men in that film just come across as really well, and her dad just comes across as this sort of gammony guy who exploits his own daughter. And that awful man, Blake, who the entire album, best-selling album that she had to torturously sing again and again is based on. I can't actually like Back in Black's album. It is actually an incredible piece of musicianship and production and voice. I didn't realise that at the time because I associated with certain people I just disliked. Long story. I'm not going to go into another day. Anyway, this is the 27 Club book by Gene Simmons, which I actually think is quite. It says some awful things, and I'm not a fan of Gene Simmons the musician, but it there's something very insightful about the vision in this book. It has some certain moral wisdom. The chapter on Janis Joplin is just heart-wrenching. And it gives you a wider about the nature of addiction. So Amy Winehouse, you see here, she died today, 9 years ago, was it? Born in 1983, so not about the same age as me, to 2011. And I'll just start reading. Instagram will only allow me 10 minutes, but let's see what we can get through. So it starts with a quote from a final interview, which is done by Neil Cormack in The Telegraph, which is like a right-wing conservative paper, but I'm sure the art section is good. And she just says, "You're just feeling it. You don't think about it. If you thought about it, you wouldn't be able to sing at all." And watching that video in Serbia where she just collapses on stage, it's like, you can feel that. So, Amy Winehouse. Winehouse is, to some old purists, a controversial addition to this list. Too many, the 27 Club associate not only with musicians who died at the peak of their career, but also with a particular era in pop culture history, the late 60s to the 90s. As years have passed, Winehouse included lists have become more normalised. I would even say she's one of the big six. And if you don't know what this is part of, I'm doing a project called 2772, which you can find on Instagram at 2772 project, and there's this thing called 27 Book Club, which is forms of sociality and an actual book club, and the first book reading is Amy 27, which is great. Anyway, as years have passed, Amy Winehouse is just normalised. For my part, I think this misses the point. The mistake of having this conversation is that we still treat the 27 Club list, as its name suggests, as a club. Debating whether or not she belongs implies the institutional notion that a club is something one would want to get into. So I won't bother arguing a point then, because the implication I find morally repugnant. The real point is, this is a talented young woman who died in her 20s. Her passing was not a medal, a Grammy, it was not a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction or a star on Hollywood's Walk of Fame. She was a person and she made music and she died young. I remember first seeing her at Amy Winehouse in a music video on VH1. Music videos has long ceased to be the events they once were. They were background noise as we all went on with our own lives. I made a fuss about this in the press, and there's no secret that this type of mainstream pop, or as I like to call it, disco by any other name, that makes me roll my eyes. For a long time that was the top of the food chain. But hold on there, I thought. One night as the background noise played, "What's that sound?" I remember thinking. That voice, there's no way that's a contemporary artist. I looked up and to my surprise I found a brand new singer with a fully developed stage persona. That juxtaposition of wounded bird, covered in tattoos, dressed up to look badass. It floored me. What a great look. And the name. I had no idea that it was actually her birth name. It struck me the way Johnny Rotten's name did, a genius bit of marketing that made a statement. It seemed she emerged from a birth fully formed, like Hendrix, no stylist needed, no stage name. She was clearly born for this. There were plenty of sugary pop princesses singing broken hearted lyrics and dancing alongside choreographed disco boys. That's why she thought she was. This Winehouse character was having none of that, and I was hooked. There was a clear heart on her sleeve DNA lineage to the greats of yesteryear. People like Dina Washington and Billie Holiday. And when I heard Winehouse do a duet with Tony Bennett, the man Sinatra called the best singer in the world, it became clear that this, the then 26-year-old, could hold her next to one of the giants of music. Like many of the list, if you saw her sing, it was undeniable. Amy was born in London, like me, and raised on an eclectic mix of R&B, jazz and blues. She loves Thelonious Monk, Carole King and Tony Bennett, and felt an almost disconnect with the pop music of her youth. The music that was in the pop charts, I thought, this isn't music, this is watered down, just crap. Someone had written it for you and you have to sing it, she said, and it's very much the case with some music today. It felt like it had nothing new, and that was coming out at the time that really represented me and the way I felt. I have to say I empathise with that. Her decision to write her own music was, in her own words, a challenge to herself, to see if she had anything new to say that had not already